Hey, good evening, everyone. It's 7 o'clock here on the East Coast. This is Richard Byrne. I'm Richard, and I'm coming to you from Woodstock, Maine. Nice and chilly tonight. Actually, we're going to get snow tonight. And the other person that just popped in, that's Aaron Sherman. He is the president, CEO, founder of Storyboard That, and he'll be weighing in with some things tonight, too. Aaron, why don't you go ahead and say hello?
I can't believe you guys are getting snow. That's insane. And just super excited to be here. Really excited to share all that Storyboard that is up to. And for those that have never seen Richard Byrne present about us, it's a truly enjoyable experience. And I'll be here in chat answering any questions people may have.
Great. Thanks, Aaron. Uh, for those of you who are going, oh my goodness, those two guys are really ugly, don't worry. We're going to turn off our webcams very soon. But people have said that they like to put a face with the voice, and I get that. I understand that. Even though they're not the prettiest faces to put on screen, we're here and we are real people. And we're actually recording this, so anyone who is watching this recording later and hears me repeat a question kind of out of the blue, it's because I took it out of the chat. If this is your first time joining us on Go to Training, just a couple of little nuances to it that you should be aware of. First of all, there is a chat panel, and I think most people who are here live have seen that. You can send a question directly to myself or Aaron. You can also send a comment or a question to the entire group, and you're more than welcome to put in whatever you want in there, and I'll try to answer it as best I can. And if not, Aaron will answer it. One of us will get on it. A couple other little things about this. I have everybody muted by default just so that we don't get any random barking dogs or screaming children in the background. But speaking of barking dogs, if you do hear barking, it's one of my two dogs. It's spring, and there's lots of things out in the yard, and they like to bark. So hopefully they cooperate with us tonight. And last but not least, if you have questions after this webinar is done, you can send an email to me, Richard Byrne at freetechforteachers.com, or Aaron at storyboardthat.com, and we'll support you as best we can. All right, so all the housekeeping things are out of the way. I'm going to turn off my webcam just so you don't have to stare at my face anymore. And I think Aaron's going to turn off his as well so that you don't have to stare at him too much longer either. There we go. And now you can see our screen, or my screen, I should say. You should be able to see my screen. So I'm going to back all the way up to kind of the beginning, Storyboard That. I became familiar with Storyboard That probably, I'm going to say 2011, 2012, somewhere around there, 2011, 2012, when it was just a business product, actually, and I kind of saw it, and I said, you know what, I think I can use this with some students, and it turns out I was right. Worked out really well with students for kind of brainstorming ideas and really putting some ideas on paper, digital paper, if you will, in a way that wasn't necessarily based entirely on writing, and it wasn't necessarily based entirely on drawing. As I mentioned in the chat before we got started, I taught high school social studies and language arts, mostly social studies, but language arts a little bit as well. I always found that I had students who really liked to write, and I had students who really liked to draw, and sometimes they were the same student, but often they weren't. And Storyboard That and storyboards in general kind of helped me put those two pieces together in a way that was really accessible to a lot of my kids. So before we go too much further, just a quick little set of questions here to think about. Would you like a better alternative to PowerPoint? Some of the stuff I do is with storyboards in general, not necessarily just Storyboard That, but storyboards in general, is to create a better version of a presentation, to get kids to really think through the process. You know, think about how and I want you to think about how your students currently outline stories or reports, and how you might make that a little bit better, or how they might make that a little bit more accessible and a little bit more concrete as well in terms of flow. And I'll kind of give the spoiler alert here. I found that, again, that piece of being able to combine the visual aspect with the writing made it much easier for my students to outline their stories, whether they were fiction stories or nonfiction stories. Think about graphic organizers. And finally, if you have used Storyboard that before, feel free to weigh in during the chat tonight on any of your favorite features or anything you would like to suggest as a new feature. Aaron has been really great about implementing new things very quickly. I've actually seen this firsthand. You know, we were sitting around drinking soda pop in Boston, and I had some ideas, and I saw them go on the back of a napkin, and believe it or not, it came to life very quickly within the next week. So, very responsive about that sort of thing. All right. So by the end of today's webinar, hopefully you'll have a better sense of how storyboards in general, and of course Storyboard that, because they are sponsoring this tonight, but how storyboards in general can really be used in a wide variety of ways, for everything from teaching Shakespeare to teaching lessons on appropriate behavior in social settings, to cyber safety and science labs and all kinds of things across the curriculum. Right, so just a quick overview on what a storyboard and Storyboard that is in general. I really think of it as a graphic organizer. It's a way to put some images with text. Call that what you will. Call it a set of slides, call it a graphic organizer, call it wireframes. You can call it any of those things, and it's still a very flexible graphic organizer. It is fun. Like I said, it's accessible. I love the fact that there's 45,000 pieces of artwork that kids can drag and drop into place to create a story or to create the outline for a story, and they don't have the pressure of, oh, I'm not a good artist, or, oh, I'm not a good writer, because we can work on that skill that they're weaker in while they take advantage of the skill that they're stronger in at the same time. Right? And finally, Storyboard that does make it easy to present your ideas. It really does. If you're, like I said, if you're looking for a different way of going about doing PowerPoint or going about doing slides in general, give some thought tonight as you look at how Storyboard that is used as the presentation tool. Right, so I'm going to start tonight with the topic that was advertised, and that is kind of summarizing the school year with storyboards. Right. Now, this is a storyboard that I made earlier today, and I put it together because it kind of reflects how I think a lot of us feel throughout the course of the school year, the kind of the arc of the school year as a teacher. We have that phase at the beginning of the school year where we say, oh, I can't wait for the kids to get here. I can't wait to try this new thing that I learned over the summer, or this new approach to teaching, or this new approach to classroom management, or I'm excited about coaching in the fall, or whatever the thing is that gets you excited in the fall. I think we all have that feeling. And then we get to this middle of the year time of January, February, and we're just hoping for that one snow day, that one little extra day off, or that extra morning to sleep in. And now we're getting into the part of the school year where we look up and we go, oh my goodness, it's April 25th. Is that right? April 25th right now. And we're feeling like we only have a month left and we have so much to do. And then the school year's over. And my goodness, the kids are gone and we're going to miss them. And as I say, most of them. We miss them all eventually, but sometimes it takes an extra day or two before we miss all of them. All right. So we're going to take a look at how the heck did I put this story together. And this is a very simple story. This is only a three-frame story, but we'll look at all the other ways you can use these frames. Now, I use the clip art that's, I shouldn't say clip art because that's technically a trademark term, isn't it, Aaron? I used just the artwork that's inside of Storyboard that to make this story. Where it becomes an option for really summarizing the school year is when you start to bring in some of your own artwork or some of your own pictures that students have taken as digital artifacts of work that they've done, or just kind of a highlight of the school year. Maybe it's a highlight of, if you're a band teacher or a music teacher, and some highlights of various recitals, and you want to pull in pictures of that. So let's take a look at how that goes together first. So I'm going to open this up in a new tab. And I'll show you how I put that together. So here's Storyboard that. By the way, if you have not used Storyboard that before, some features of it that I should point out before we even start to make anything is that it works. I'm working on my HP laptop right now. It will work on your Chromebook. I was using it on my Chromebook earlier today. It will work on your iPad, work on your Android tablet. Basically, if you have a modern web browser installed, it will work on that. Obviously, the bigger the screen you have, the more space you have to work with, and it's a little bit easier, but it works flawlessly on an iPad. I've used it in workshops where I'm at a school that has just iPads, and it's worked just fine. So let's go ahead and create a storyboard. And we'll look at how I did this today. Now, one of the things that you can do here is you can, I tend to start with my background for the story. Maybe I'm going to do it my school story. And we can scroll through the default things that appear across the top here for school. But you can also go in and just do a search. Maybe I want a little different setting. Maybe I want something like a playground. So I just did a search for playground, and this branches out from the drawn artwork into, well, let's take a look at that one. And you can see it's a tiny little picture, so let's just hit this little button here and make it a little bit bigger. Now, check out the neat thing that happened at the bottom of the screen. This is really great for getting kids in the habit of recognizing that things they find on the internet do need to be cited. I dragged that in, and it automatically has the image citation in place for kids. Yep. So yeah, the pictures are Creative Commons licensed. Yep. And you can see right there at the bottom, there's a creativecommons.org licensed by 2.1. Has the image source and who put it on there. So pretty cool little feature. Right? Now, if I wanted to use this as my setting for the entire story, I could. I go in and just click on the edit button, duplicate it, and drag it over again. So I could set that up as part of my story. Or if I don't like that, I'll pull that part out. I can pull any of those pieces out. I'm going to go back to the default scenes. I'm going to show you how I put the story together today. I just dragged in that school bus, and then I went and looked for a character. Now we have a whole bunch of adults. We have teens, kids, jobs. So characters based on the type of work they're doing. I've used this one in the past quite a bit, 1600s to 1800s. In the fall, do a lot of stories about the settling of North America, and so you try to use some of the pilgrim figures and whatnot. Monsters in this, Greek mythology, we've got all kinds of stuff in there. So the character I used this morning when I made my story was right there. And I just dragged that little dude in. Little dude. Wow. How old am I? I just dragged that little person in. And let's go in and let's customize it. Customize them. Let's give him some brown hair. Give him blue eyes. Change his shirt. Now, if you don't like those default colors, you can just click on the color palette over here. You can go in and you can Give him a nice sky blue kind of shirt and some different pants. You know, give him brown pants with more of a khaki feel to them. And likewise, I can go in and change his shoes and give him pink shoes if I wanted to. Just gonna leave him with those gray shoes. Now, I can make this person a little bit more excited about the school year. Let's go in and click the Edit Pose button. Let's make him a little bit more excited. So we can choose some emotions for him. He's happy. Or if I don't like the default happy, I can go in and I can say, make him that way. Surprised. Let's make him happy there. You can pose his arms a bit. You can bend him if you want to. I don't know why you would want him kneeling in front of the school, but you could. You get him walking out the door. Tilting his head over a little bit. And if you want speaking, you can say, put him in a speaking position, and look, his mouth is now open. So, and I just want to make him a little bit bigger, so just click and drag and put him over here. Now, from here, I'm going to go in and try to put in some text and have him speaking or thinking, as the case may be. So I'll pick any old speech bubble that I like, drag him over. Maybe he's not speaking so much as he is thinking, so in that case I'll have him use a thought bubble. And I can move him around that way. Oh, by the way, I can flip this thought bubble around. So there's his thought bubble coming down that way. I'll say, I can't wait to meet all of my new students. And make his font a little bit bigger. All right. So we now have our first scene set up, and I'm going to use this school bus again. So I'll just go and duplicate it and drag it over. Let's set that up. And we'll just make sure it fits perfectly, and it does. Now we can rotate this. If we want to flip it around and have the bus going the other way, we can rotate it around that way and flip it about. Let's flip it back the other way. Or we can do what I did this morning, and I put in the scene. This teacher laying in bed at home, hoping for that snow day. Now, if I want to change up the scene here, I can go in, I can change my color scheme. If I want it to be dark outside. 80 degrees in Somerville, my goodness, it's we have 2 to 3 inches of snow forecasted up here in Woodstock, Maine for tomorrow morning. So we can customize that scene, and if I click on Edit Scene, you can see I can even go here and say, oh, I don't want a bed. I'll put the bed in. Okay. Nighttime, so it's a little bit different. Curtains closed, curtains open. We'll update that scene. But this is pretty cool. We're getting the weather around the country. We should make a storyboard about that. Right. So I'm going to go and put this guy back in here. Let me put my character back in. All right. Now I'm going to use the same character. So I'm just going to duplicate him and put him in place. Now, but I don't want to leave that same scene because that's ridiculous. He's not going to stand up next to his bed and hope for the snow day when in all of his clothes. So let's edit the pose. Let's make him sleepy. And now let's go ahead and flip them on his side. Flip them one more time. One more time. We'll get him there. All right, now we got him. Now we've got him in bed. And I can even tilt his head a little bit so that hopefully I match the fact that he's on the cushion. And he can say, all right, back in our textables, we can go in and we can say, well, I'll put that in place and make it a little smaller. All right. Please let it be a snow day. Now, to make this scene even more realistic, let's go ahead and put a phone next to the bed. Now, we could use a wireframe cell phone. We could drag it into place. Right? But that's kind of ridiculous to use that one. So let's go ahead and look for a phone. And put a phone next to the bed. And look at all the phone options we have. Now, how many of your kids would recognize that that's even a phone? Right? And those dial phones. And who really has a dial phone next to their bed anymore? You know, that's not going to work. So let's use this one here. Let's flip it around so it's leaning up against the wall. There it is. And now I'll put in some text again, and my text, in this case, will indicate ringing. So, coming out of the phone, we'll have it say, ring, ring. So, there's my second scene in the story. Let's do one more scene in the story. We'll go back in and let's look for the school building. And we can put in an empty classroom. We can put in the hallway scene if we wanted to again. We can use the cafeteria scene, whatever you want to use. If you want to do a different one altogether, you might say classroom like this. Now, the reason that I won't use these classroom pictures right now is because I've already started with the hand-drawn look, and it would be kind of incongruent to suddenly flip from this hand-drawn look to using real pictures in the story. And that's something to consider with your students as you use this. You know, is to say, well, you want to keep a consistent theme and congruency as you go through the creation of your story, whether that's a fiction story or a nonfiction story. We want to keep that similar across the board. It's kind of the same concept that I apply to videos when I'm making videos with kids. You know, as I say to them, you know, the pictures are great and the video footage is great, but you have to also keep a soundtrack that's consistent with the theme of what you're displaying. And likewise, here I want to keep a consistency between frames as I go through and make my story. So I'm going to go back to just using the school setting, and to show you the one that I used this morning, I'll go ahead and I'll pull in that hallway, that empty hallway. I'll make that full size, and I'll use my same character again. By the way, I'm using just one character per frame right now, but you can use as many characters as you want. You can put in more characters. You might have to shrink them down to make them all fit in the space allotted, but you can certainly put them in, put in more, and have a dialogue going. And I'll edit this guy's pose. Pam, I'm going to jump on that question next, like literally within about 90 seconds or less. So I'm just going to, hey, no, don't need to apologize at all. And let's just go and say, I want to put both hands up here, left arm and right arm, right? And we'll go with a very happy look on his face. But I wanted to keep my arms up. Right. Arms up and happy.
Richard,
Yeah, Aaron.
you may want to show that you can turn the character on its side and its back.
Yeah. So we can go in and let's. You can see I just flipped him around there. So I just click the side character, front view of the character, turn to the side. Let's update him that way. Oh, now he's backwards to me though. Okay, so let's flip him around. Okay. Well, actually, when I do that right now, he's kind of wiggling his butt at me. We turn that. So let's edit this pose again. Hold on. I always forget which way I'm clicking my characters. Let's put it back to the front view. There we go. Now let's update the pose. And flip my guy around again. What did I just do there? Let's try that again. Let's just start him from scratch again. But you get the idea that you can, I don't know what I just did to make him turn around like that, but I did. I got a little click happy. Let's put him back in here. You get the idea that you can make people go frontwards and backwards. It is sometimes hard to click and talk at the same time. Let me put this guy back up. All right, that's how I want him to be. Let's update him. And I got that little reminder to make sure I save my work on a regular basis. All right. So if you remember from the previous frame that I was on, you can mix and match your color scheme. And in this case, I found it to be really helpful because my character in the beginning of the story has kind of this blue and tan earth tone-y look to him, and then I put him in a background that's also kind of blue and tan and earth tone like. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and change my filters on my scene and maybe make it a grayscale so that my character pops out of the scene a little bit more. Right. Now I'll put my character back in, and I can go and I'll put in my textables and say something like, "Wow, where did the time go?" And I'll make my font a bit bigger. Okay. Now I noticed that we had at least one world languages teacher in here, and I do want to point out while I'm looking at the text right now that there is a virtual keyboard. So if you're having your students write in another language and they need a little help, making accent marks or other letters that are not typical on your American keyboard, American English keyboard, you can use that virtual keyboard there. So there's my story. Now the question was, can we print this? Yes, we can definitely print this. So how to do that? Make sure I save this. Right. Give it a story title, called The Arc of Teacher Emotions. What happens in the course of a school year? Now, you can see here I have an assignment. I'm currently logged into my Storyboard that classroom account, and I can assign this. I can have this as part of an assignment. In this case, I'm not going to do that. Let's go ahead and save the story. All right, so there's my storyboard. Now, a couple of things I can do with it from here. If I want to print it, and go ahead and click the print button. You can say I want to print just the storyboard or the storyboard and text. And from an assessment standpoint, I find it to be better to print the storyboard and text. That way, if I want to just kind of quickly review the text, whether that's for spelling or for grammar or for anything else, I can look at just the text part here. And I can also go up here and look at the storyboard itself and look at everything in context. Now, I've loaded this up here on my computer to save as a PDF, but you can simply change it. If you want to save it to your Google Drive, you can save that to your Google Drive if you want to, or you can send it to I can send it to any of one of the printers that are connected to my computer. But for now, I'll just save it as a PDF. Kathy, that's a question that Aaron can answer better than I can because he's in control of all those things. Aaron, do you want to handle that question right now, or do you want to actually,
I
Aaron,
can handle it.
why don't you let me finish this little printing part and then handle that question? Because part two of the printing is you can also go in and say from the printing. Uh, or from this same menu. Right? Now, so we have the single page print, but we can also go in and we can say, I want to download the images as PowerPoint. I want them as an image pack or high resolution. Do I want them optimized for social media or just as a PDF? Or do I want it as actual PowerPoint? So I have all those options to pick from as well. And if I want to present it to the class, I can have students use it just as a slideshow and print it through and scroll through that way. And they can talk about their story by just using the slideshow function. I have this story currently marked as private. If I were to change that out, I could go in and I could then embed that story. You can see right now I have this private. If I turned off my privacy, I could embed this into my blog post or my wiki site or any place that accepts embed code. I could put it in, just like a YouTube video. Okay, Aaron, I didn't mean to step on your toes. Go ahead.
Thanks. It's just it always takes me a second to find the unmute button. So in answer to the question about cost, so far almost everything Richard has shown so far is included in the completely free version, with the exception of the library of tens of millions of Creative Commons photos. That is a premium feature. Just one note on the free version, your students must be over the age of 13 to use the completely free version. Otherwise, you have to, by our terms of use, use a premium edition, and this is to ensure student privacy. And then one of the things that Richard did not show, if I can get you to go back to print, one of the things that we've heard a lot from teachers is that it's really nice to have the ability to change how many cells get printed per page. So if we click on one per page, if you go back to that, it shows you all the different ways you can print it. And this way, if you want it to be a very large image to go on a whiteboard or a bulletin board, or you want a smaller image, down here on the bottom two, which Richard was briefly hovering over, is we've made it so you can print it out as a worksheet and write a essay if you're doing a creative writing exercise. And then a question from Pam is, how much would it cost for a license for an elementary school? We can go over pricing more at the end, but typically for one teacher at an elementary school, it's $10 per month per teacher, or to buy it at the school level, it's $75 per teacher or $2 per student, whichever is cheaper, and we can absolutely work with you to develop the best package for your needs. Any other questions before I hand it over back to Richard? Okay.
All right, thanks, Aaron. Yeah, so let's while I have this print feature up here, one of the slides I have later in the slide deck is the idea of using these as story prompts themselves. So you could go in and say, I'm going to make a 3-frame story as the teacher, and I'll print out one of these prompts and let kids free write on it. Use that as the prompt. They have the picture, they have the little scene. You write the next part of the story, and do that kind of as a free write activity. Nice little way to do some brainstorming, and it's a good solution if you're not in a one-to-one environment. If you're in that setting where you only have a couple of computers in your classroom, or you're in a school where you have to sign out the computer lab or sign out the laptop cart for the day, this is a nice way to kind of take advantage of both things. You can say, I'm going to go ahead and print out these frames. I'm going to have kids write these frames and free write on paper. And that way, when you do have your computer time, whether that's a computer lab, or your laptop cart, or your iPad cart, your kids aren't spending a lot of time kind of thinking, oh no, what am I going to write now? They already have an idea of what they're going to write. They're just now starting to put the pictures to it. So that's that's a great way to think about going about that. Right. So let me close that out. Right. So that's one way I think about kind of summarizing the school year. Now, one of the other features that you can do that I mentioned and I didn't show yet is the idea of uploading pictures of things your kids have done and using your own pictures as part of the story. So let's think about how that would go together. So I'll make a new storyboard right now with that option. So maybe I want to tell a little story about my own life. Something from my own life. So let's go ahead and upload images that I have stored on my computer. Now, I'm going to pull in some images here. I have a folder called Australia, right? And let's use my pictures of, first of all, a plane. And I can drag that into place and make it larger. And notice I can also filter that color, right? And make that a grayscale color. I'm going to upload another one. We'll do a quick upload and we'll say, I'll use that one. And again, I'm going to turn this one into grayscale as well, just to kind of keep the theme across all the slides. Because I'm going to put other elements in here that are going to be more colorful, and these are going to be kind of these are really the background. This is the setting. So I'll do one more quick little upload, and I'll put in this picture here. And put that one in. And again, I'm going to grayscale that one. Now, I put these out of order in my way of thinking, so I'm going to put that, just click and drag and flop those around. That's a quick and easy way to do that. Now, again, you can have kids put in pictures of anything that they've taken a picture of. Kids are always taking pictures on their phones. Have them take a picture on their phone, and they can upload it to Storyboard that, and they can then write about it. So now I can put in my characters. I want to put characters in there. If I just want to put text in there. If I just want to do a quick little and I'll put that in place. Oh, by the way, you're not limited to just black and white text boxes. I haven't shown you that yet, but you can color your text, put a different background around your text, and I can put in this little note, a view of the Sydney Opera House. That most people don't recognize. And that's true. I've shown that picture to a bunch of people over the last year, and people are like, where is that? Because you don't usually think of that view of it. So let's go ahead and make that bigger so that it fits in the space allowed. And I'll summarize my trip by saying, and that's all the time I had in Australia. And we'll sort that out. That's what it is. So again, just another feature of Storyboard that you should be aware of. So you can drag and drop your pictures in, have kids label it, and again, I'm going to save this one, and we'll say trip to Australia, and save the storyboard. Now, I've only used the 3-frame storyboard so far. If I wanted to, I could go in and I can edit my storyboard, and I can say, I want to do a different layout. maybe I'm going to use a grid layout, or I'm going to go in and I'm going to say, you know what, I'm going to do a cell and description. So rather than putting all my text right on top of the images, I might put it down here and put it in my description. Or I may change it out and do a timeline. I love the timeline model. If you're really focused on doing this as slides and a 16 by 9 layout, that's going to be a great option for you as well. Now the problem is that these images that I used were perfect squares when I uploaded them, so they're getting a little bit elongated here in this setting. So I'm going to change that back, and I'll just go back to my cell only layout. So we have some options there. So we looked at telling some stories with Storyboard. That good way to summarize, your highlights of the year. Going to Australia was the highlight of my year. I gave you the 3-frame version of it. You should have seen. Hopefully, you saw there that you can also add more frames to that story. Now, some other ways to think about using storyboards, and this is something that Aaron shared with me, I don't know, 2 or 3, maybe more years ago than that. So think about using this 6-hat model for illustrating protocols and roles in a group decision making and group brainstorming. I kind of think about laying down the rules, thinking about other ways to think, a person who plays a devil's advocate, and you can see here that this is one of the different layouts that is available on Storyboard. That option of, all right, this person is modeling the behavior, and this is an explanation of the behavior. This person is modeling the role, that's an explanation of the role. One of the things that I like about storyboards is the idea of illustrating a problem and a solution to that problem, whether that's a role play with characters in the frame, or it's something like this where I just did the wireframes of a scenario of cyber safety and digital citizenship, and this internet friend whose text I've made in red is doing a bad thing and asking where the person lives and what are you doing later, and the appropriate response is I've got to go, and the bad friend says where did you go, and I have no response because I've logged out. So another way to think about using these, again, that role-playing piece, framing that difficult conversation, whether that's for yourself, trying to think this through. You have a tough IEP coming up, or you have a tough parent-teacher conference coming up, and you want to think about, all right, how is this going to play out? Or you have parent-teacher-student conferences. In the school that I worked in for a number of years, we had student-led conferences, and the best student-led conferences were the ones in which the kids took some time to think about, okay, what do I want to share? What is the teacher going to say when I share this in the meeting? And what's my mom or dad going to say when they get this information in the meeting? So another way to think about it is really framing out that entire conversation. I'm always looking for a different way to do a book report or a different way to do any kind of report. I chose this one here. This is one from the teacher guides that are available in Storyboard That, which anyone can access. You don't have to have an account. You can just log in and choose any one of these lesson guides, lesson ideas. I chose the Missouri Compromise because I live in Maine, and that's how Maine became a state. But you can see this is a nice way of doing a report that's not writing it out, not necessarily writing. And again, you could turn these into slides at the end and have kids talk about these pieces. Now here's a massive character recap, and you can see here we have 20 chapters. Completely do a book or do this entire plot diagram that you can do through Storyboard That. Teaching literary terms. The link we can put that link. Oh, I'm going to share all these slides as a link at the end. So you'll get all these links and then some. Yep. Yeah, I should have mentioned that at the beginning. Yeah, I'm going to make copies of all these slides. I'll put these all in the chat at the end so you can get all these slides. You can get this visual dictionary, visual glossary if you want to think of it that way. Uh, Again, that visual glossary, vocabulary boards. This is the Raven. Again, one of the teacher guides available at Storyboard. That, by the way, all written by teachers. This is not like interns sitting around going, "Hey, I need to make a lesson plan." There's actually real teachers who have taught these books and taught these topics. Again, another way of thinking about using a storyboard with a different layout. Again, you got the T-chart going across the top here. Cause and effect, advantages, disadvantages. As a history teacher, this is one that I gravitate to. And again, I did things like this on paper when I first started teaching. And we didn't have computers in the classroom by any stretch of the imagination. And I did things like this where we do a T-chart, advantages, disadvantages, cause, effect, pros, cons. We did all that, but it was often just a lot of handwriting. And the problem with just doing the handwriting is that I didn't have that visual connection for a lot of kids. And here we've got this same kind of concept, but a much better visual connection through the process. Again, a plot diagram. And here's one of my stories. Again, using the option of uploading pictures. Little timeline of me and my dogs. Now, I mentioned the idea of printing out your slides as a free write. Also think of it as a visual aid for taking notes. And kind of last but not least here, and time has gone by very quickly tonight, Aaron. Holy crap! I can't believe how quickly the time's gone. All these storyboards that you make, because you can take the slides out of them, you can put them somewhere else. You could put it into WeVideo. You could put it into iMovie. I mentioned the idea that Storyboard that works just fine on your iPad, or if you're on your Chromebook, you put it right into WeVideo, or put it into the YouTube feature. And speaking of dogs barking, there they are. So mash these things together, and I say this a lot when I do webinars, when I do workshops. You don't think about these apps in isolation, these tools in isolation, but think about really how do you put a couple of them together to create a really robust product at the end. So you put together there. Right. Now, these teacher guides that I've mentioned, you can find them at bit.ly/sbt-guides, and I don't know how that link got that way, but it did. By the way, I'm putting this in the chat. Some other ways. This has some other ways to think about using storyboards, kind of the story of using storyboards, if you will. There's a little discount code. Aaron can talk more about that in a bit. But before we get into that, I want to point out two other things that you can use in conjunction with Storyboard that are not necessarily a part of Storyboard that. First of all, if you're looking for pictures, if you decide you want to go the route of uploading pictures to the storyboard, one of the problems that we always see in classrooms are people who are letting kids just go to Google Images, right-click, and save. And there's a ton of problems with that, not the least of which is copyright infringement. But what you can do is you can go to Photos for Class if you're looking for pictures. I always say use your own pictures first, but if you can't, then look for public domain and Creative Commons licensed pictures. For example, if I'm teaching a lesson on the desert and I want my kids to have pictures of a cactus, they're going to have a hard time here in Maine where it's snowing tomorrow getting a picture of a cactus to use. So we'll go to Photos for Class. We'll say, I want a picture of a cactus. And we'll pull up all these pictures. And we'll let them all load up. And I'll go, oh my goodness. There's so many cactus pictures. I don't know which one to use. I'll use this one. And this is a Photos for Class completely free. I'm just going to go ahead and hit the download button and watch the magic that happens with this picture. So I upload it, and you'll notice down at the bottom, I now have all my attribution information right down at the bottom, included in the pictures. So if your student decides to go and use this in Storyboard there, they want to use it in PowerPoint, or they use it in Google Slides, or wherever they use it, that attribution information goes with them no matter where they use the picture. So pretty cool little tool. Oh, and by the way, you can put this directly into your classroom blog or your school library website if you want to do that. You can say, grab the embed code for it and put it in there. So let's say you want to go to add that to your site. Choose the size of display that you want. Do you want that small display or the large display? Use either one. Copy and paste that code and put it into your classroom blog or website, just like you would put a YouTube video or any other element into your classroom blog or website. Copy and paste that in, and now you have the image search engine built right in. So pretty cool little function. And again, you can combine that with Storyboard there. You can combine it with your favorite slideshow tool or your favorite video tool, wherever you're going to use that. And then we also have this quick option here for creating a quick rubric. This is not going to grade it for you. Let's make sure I sign into my account correctly. I forgot my let's just go and do it this way. And I'll just use my Google account. This is what happens when you forget my when I forget my username and password. All right, let's create a new rubric. All right, so storyboard that story. I can put in my description. Follow the instructions for now. Now, one of the things that I like is I can change this to something like exceed standard. Meets, partially meets, okay. So let's add a column here, and we'll say doesn't meet. This is completely free. Yep. You know, you can see there I created a brand new account on the go because I couldn't remember my password for the previous account that I had, or on the fly I couldn't. Right. So I can go in and just say just they did awesome work here. For the sake of brevity here, I'm going to make very short descriptions. Let's go ahead and save that rubric. I've saved it. By the way, you can see my min-max score over here on the right-hand side. So if you want to make sure that no child gets less than 50%, you can say that. All right. Let's go ahead and view it and print it. And print out the rubric. And you can see right now, because I left it kind of incomplete, we're missing quite a bit. I need to go back and edit that. But by the way, if you need some tips on writing a rubric, there's a whole big guide here, again, developed by one of the teachers that Aaron has Aaron has on staff. So that's quick rubric, and as you can see, rather quick and easy. Of course, you make a rubric about your storyboard. That, speaking of which, if you want to look at the user guides and put those back up there, let's go to my home. I'll put our user guides back up there. And I'll put those in the chat. And those are all the teacher guides. And of course, if we want to pull up, I'll pull up world history. I got a bit of a social studies bias, so let's do this one. Let's do special education. I think this one doesn't get as much attention as it should. Neat things here. Like, I love this one. I was looking at this earlier today. And you can see here, first of all, explaining the difference between negative and positive reinforcement, and then giving an example of the reminders that they're using for the kids. You look at the whole. These are not, as I said, this is not some summer intern who just slapped some things together. There's a lot of detail in here on how you can use it in your classroom. All right, so I'm going to now share those slides with the entire group here. If you're watching the recording of this, you should get the link with the recording. And so that link is in the chat room. It's a set of Google slides, and you can grab them and make a copy for yourself if you want to. As long as you're logged into your Google account, just hit a file, make a copy, and you can keep a copy in your own Google account. All right, Aaron, I'm going to hand it off to you here for the last 3 minutes that we have together.
Well, thank you. This is absolutely fantastic. I think 3 years ago when we started, you were done in about 15 minutes, and now in an hour, you've gone about 15% through all what the product can do. So that's tremendous change in where we've come together in 3 or 4 years. Happy to answer any questions. Some of the things I think that are also really great to see that we didn't have time for is we have an extensive teacher dashboard experience, which allows creating subclasses, assignments, folders. The layouts, I know we went through them very quickly, but by using the different types of layouts, it greatly changes the educational outcomes you're looking for between T-charts, spider maps, timelines, Frere models. It really, really enables you to do just about any activity where a paper graphic organizer would have been your go-to in the past. I absolutely love the way the presentations work. When you click slideshow, which Richard did very quickly, it's just such a powerful, easy way to view a storyboard in front of the class or in a small group, a small team. And happy to answer any questions that people have. The pricing starts at $10. Maybe Richard, could you pull up the pricing page? If you go to manage your subscription on the left-hand side, that'll show the pricing grid. Yeah, and if you want to put your questions in the chat box, I'll be happy to answer them. Pam, you'd love to have a Twitter chat. We can try to arrange that. You can always also talk with anyone on our team. We have one full-time teacher or ex-full-time teacher that works in the office, and we have a nice network of teachers that contribute to our content, but we can absolutely find somebody that you can speak with. And so here you can see our pricing. It's very transparent. So at 50 students, we charge the individual teacher $10 a month or $60 for the school year. We are well aware that most teachers don't work during the school year, so we want to give you a discount on top of not charging you for the time. And then Richard, if I get you scrolled down just a tiny bit, you can see our pricing at the school level, where we charge either $1.95 per student or $75 per teacher, whichever is cheaper. And once again, myself or someone from the team is happy to work with you to come up with a package that's best for you. And everyone that was in this webinar, there is a 25% discount, which we will honor on any size purchase, including school districts. So we will honor that for anyone for 30 days. Any other questions as we are rushing to the 8 o'clock line?
Aaron, I'm just going to pop in here really quickly and say that one of the things that I think is powerful as a teacher who has had a lot of situations where I didn't have computers all day long, and I had to go to a computer lab. Being able to manage my students, manage the users, so that I don't lose time to, oh my goodness, Susie forgot her password or Jimmy forgot his password. I'm not spending a lot of time with that because I can manage all that stuff, and the sign up process is really really easy. The screen that I wanted to show everyone before I clicked into the paying is that you could go and you can see how someone would join my class. You visit that storyboard, that you see my name and you see my access key, and you can kind of see how easy that process is. So, all right, and Aaron, I can hear you typing to somebody, so I
Sorry.
don't. Yep. All right, and again, the links to everything that we mentioned here are included in the slides that I'll share one more time in the chat and put that in there. And then we will say goodnight from Woodstock, Maine. I hope everyone has a great end to the school year. I know we are down to the wire in a lot of places. A lot of folks are wrapping up in the next 6 weeks. So uh, I wish you all the best with that. And of course, you can always send myself or Aaron an email. It's Aaron at storyboardthat.com or Richard Byrne at freetechforteachers.com. And of course, you can also find us on the Twitter sphere as well. All right. So thanks, everyone. Thanks, Aaron, for sitting in with us. And I'll see you online somewhere. Thanks to everyone who hung out with us for the entire time tonight. Really appreciate it. Always makes it better. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, Pam.